Hello, Harshan. Hami Shaw on Halifax and Jew. I'm here in Halifax today talking to Lisa Doucet, who is a noted Anne of Green Gables book collector and co-manager of Woozles bookshop in Halifax, which is Canada's oldest independent children's bookstore. And I popped over here today to talk to Lisa about the origin story of our Gaelic translation of Anne of Green Gables. And so, Lisa, why don't we just cut right to the chase? Can you tell our viewers about how this whole thing got started?
I would love to do that. It was actually at a dinner that took place here in Halifax a couple of years ago when Diana Gabaldon was here in Halifax and doing an event at the Rebecca Cohen. And both Emily and I had been invited to a dinner before the event. And found ourselves sitting next to each other. It was a very intimate dinner. It was
First
quite
time
lovely.
To meet you, yeah.
Yes. And of course, we got chatting about books and about what Emily does and what I do. And I, as a collector of all things Anne and of, in particular, translations of Anne in other languages, I have actively been looking for a Gaelic edition. So when I discovered what Emily does, I turned to her when there was an opportunity in the discussion. I had been waiting to say, do you know if there is in existence a Gaelic edition of Anne of Green Gables? Because I am a collector and this is something I'm looking for. Her immediate response was, no, I don't think there is. Should there be? Of course, I felt that yes, there should be. And we chatted about it a little bit that evening. So to the best of my knowledge, that's where the idea originated. And we've kept in touch about it since then. So I feel very excited that this is the first edition of Anne of Green Gables that I will actually be able to feel that I have been a part of in this small way.
Absolutely, yes, and it's super exciting, and that was just such a surprise that came right out of the blue. We were thinking about lots of topics that night.
Yeah.
Should we talk to Diana about it at dinner? And so this really, for me, it just came right out of nowhere, and it hit me that this was actually a really good idea. In other words, it's not a gimmick, right? There are real people who really want to read this book and to see this book in existence. And so you are an Anne collector. So how did you get started collecting Anne of Green Gables books?
Well, certainly from the time that I received my first boxed set of the first Anne of Green Gables books in English, when I was about 6.5, I have been a devoted fan and collector. Of course, as a child, I was collecting the English editions of all of the different books published by Lucy Maud Montgomery, and just my great joy as I kept discovering other books of hers. But then as I got older and got involved in the book world in different ways, I discovered other editions of Anne, so either older editions with beautiful cover treatments, and in fact, on a visit to Cavendish one summer, in their visitor information center, I discovered a kiosk with editions of Anne in other languages and was drawn to the covers particularly, but that is what created this idea of, in addition to having editions of Anne that come from different eras and different publishers have different cover art, wouldn't it be lovely to have a collection that features all of the different languages and the different ways in which other cultures, other countries have imagined Anne in their cover treatments. So that's kind of what began my collection.
Yeah, so you're talking about visual interpretations of Anne and not just how she's depicted in words in different languages. Yeah, and that's something we're definitely done with our Gaelic Anne. We have beautiful cover art by Etta Moffat, who is an illustrator and somebody of Gaelic heritage. Her roots are in Cape Breton. And so yeah, that's really cool. I'm not even sure we talked about that at the dinner, so I must have just gotten that from you through osmosis, or that is something that you can see in the different Anne editions for sure. So you mentioned, I mean, the great thing to me was that you actually knew that Gaelic existed, because not everybody does, not everybody realizes, and even in talking about this book, we've had to say, no, it's not Irish. This is not Irish, we're talking about Scottish Gaelic. Now, both Irish and Scottish Gaelic have been spoken in Nova Scotia for several centuries, but it's Scottish Gaelic that we're doing the translation of this for. So could you tell our audience about how you got interested in Gaelic and that side of things?
I was particularly interested in trying to see if there were such a thing as a Gaelic edition, because my personal connection to Gaelic is somewhat slight, perhaps, but as a fan of folk music and having attended a number of folk festivals over the years, I had developed a great love for Gaelic music and also Gaelic culture. And I had a friend, I have a friend who sings in Gaelic, and I love to listen to her sing. And I was encouraged by her to take Gaelic classes, and actually she used the singing as the plug, that we always sing for the last half hour of every class. So I took Gaelic lessons, Scottish Gaelic, just through Halifax Recreation for a number of years, and loved it. I loved the people that I met. I loved learning a little bit more about Gaelic. So I've always been drawn to Gaelic music and kind of had that interest. And therefore, it made the idea of a collection of Annes in other languages, it gave it a slightly more personal connection, just because I have that interest and love of Gaelic.
Yeah, and I know you had mentioned before, there's another Nova Scotian language that's part of your family heritage that's also considered a minority language here in Nova Scotia, because this particular variety is at risk, and people are working very hard to transmit it through the schools and assisting parents to transmit it in the home. So what is that language?
Well, my family are Acadian, so I certainly have numerous editions of Anne in French, but it would be a real dream come true to have an Acadian edition of Anne.
That would be interesting.
So something for you to have on your radar.
Si quelqu'un m'écoute et si tu as intérêt.
But yes, that and my family
si tu
are
es intéressé.
Yeah, my family are from Cape Breton as well, so
where there's also very strong Acadian communities as well as Gaelic communities and Mi'kmaq communities, First Nations people. So yeah, so Cape Breton in particular, and Nova Scotia as a whole, does have this strong linguistic heritage for most of the founding groups as well. And so that's another thing that we're trying to do and kind of strengthen and promote through this, right? Say, hey, we're here, we exist, we speak this language, and look at the other languages and cultures that we have. And so I have one last question for you, which is, and we've talked about this a little bit, but like, what would a Gaelic Anne mean to you?
Well, a Gaelic Anne, again, as I've already mentioned, would feel personal to me in the sense that I do have this direct personal connection with the creation of this Gaelic edition, but also that the Gaelic language and culture is something that I've explored a little bit on my own and had a tie, a connection to, and it feels very, very local and very, very much a part of my, if not my personal family history, certainly my community, my world as an Atlantic Canadian. And so that makes it special. But also when I think of Maud as a creator and what community and family and roots meant to her, I feel like a Gaelic edition of Anne ties into all that as well, which feels special and important to me also.
Yeah, it ties it all together and kind of brings it full circle back to the language of some of her ancestors too. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Lisa, for joining me today. I think maybe we have to start a television channel on my page too. We can be a media company, not just a book publisher. And I should say that Woozles also sells our children's book, which we published last year. And maybe I'll just pop a link in the comments. And people can see that too. So thank you very much. Let's say bye to everybody.
Thank you for coming, Emily.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me here at the store. And we'll be back later on. Okay.